I'm neither ashamed nor embarrassed to admit this. Attack on Titan is a show that's actually pretty special to me. This is the only show I've ever watched as the episodes rolled out from start to finish. Well, soon to be finished. I started watching the show right when it aired back in 2013, and I've followed it ever since. As the episodes rolled right out of the oven, nice and fresh with steam still on them, I watched every single episode every week that it was airing. And I've never done that for any show besides this one, at least not for this length of time. Even my favorite show of all time, Breaking Bad, I didn't watch as it aired. I didn't watch that show until it had already finished. And I did it on a whim. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders like, how good could it be? And then I went and binged all of it in a matter of like 3 days. I know it's kind of like admitting to like an unforgivable sin, not watching that show like as it came out and being involved in the hype. But it is what it is. Don't fuck me for it. Code Geass, my favorite anime, another case of I didn't watch it till it finished. It's just, this is the only show, which is wild to think about. It has been 10 years of watching Attack on Titan, and what an absolutely extraordinary journey it has been. It was pretty much a massive success right away, like an overnight mainstream hit, and back in 2013 that wasn't super common. Even back then, your big anime were still like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, but Attack on Titan hit the scene and immediately blew people's asses out, just like prolapses across the country as people were talking about Attack on Titan. And I imagine for a lot of people that was their first exposure to anime. I know it was for my roommates back in college. Like, it was a big super success, and it's only grown into the massive behemoth that it is today. And it's just been an extraordinary journey. Now, pardon me, you're entering the splash zone. I'm about to go gushing grannies here because I really do love the show, and it's wrapping up. I'm sure all of you know Attack on Titan's actual final season is airing right now, or the first part of it has dropped, and then the second part is going to be the ending. So they divided the ending into 2 parts. The first one just dropped. This is like my only complaint, by the way. Like, my only major complaint is the way they're handling this. I hate the way they've named these fucking seasons. Like, they had Attack on Titan the final season part 1, which then had a lot of parts to it. And then they had Attack on Titan final season part 2, part 3, and then Attack on Titan final chapters, Turbo Edition, Arcade, XL, Double Magnum. Like, the way they are naming these seasons is beyond convoluted. They had shit like season 4, the final season, part 1, and then 2 parts to that part. So it'd be part 1, and part 2 of part 1. And then now season 4, part 2, or excuse me, season 4, part 3, and what we just watched, what just dropped was part 1 of part 3 of season 4's final season, which means now part 2 will be coming out later, which is the actual ending. It's fucking dumb, is what I'm saying. There was no reason to name it this way. It just made it really messy, muddy, and just absolute goddamn headache. Like, you could have just called it season 4, right? And they left it at that. You never had to put final season there and associate it with like a final, because it wasn't. It was leading up to the finale, which is what's coming out now. What just dropped could be final part 1 and then final part 2. Like, that'd be a lot easier. But anyway, I'm done ranting about that. It's a super silly decision from the naming department there. Big L on naming. But everything else is a fat fucking W. I want to spend this video kind of going over my entire perspective on Attack on Titan, but I want to briefly give you a quick review of the first part of the finale that just dropped this week. It fucking slaps. I don't understand how Mappa is able to continuously churn out this level of quality of anime with how many projects they take on. They legitimately say yes to more projects than fucking Netflix does. If I was to make a flip book right now and say, you know what, I want this to be an anime, Mappa would probably take on that project and make it look like it would cost $50 million to produce. It is crazy, the quality that they are able to achieve. This is no exception. It is absolutely stunning. And they do use CGI. And they do a great job of integrating it with the anime. A lot of people like to shit on CGI. They start getting into these debates. It's a lot of brouhaha, CGI doesn't belong in anime, it ruins it. I just totally disagree. A lot of anime that has used CGI in the past uses it terribly, and it's dog shit. It looks awful. It's just an eyesore. Mappa does a great job of weaving it beautifully into the piece. And that is very much alive and well in the finale part 1 here. There's a lot of moments of CG, but it still looks great. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't ruin the experience at all. It is still great to look at. And my God, is it hype. Like I said, I don't want to spoil anything about the finale here, but there is some important moments, especially with a character death, that I think is handled in such an incredibly thrilling way. There's a background track playing. It's a great song as they're just going hog wild, killing titans. Just it's fucking full throttle, high octane action, and it's just a great send off to the character. And that's of course not the only moment. It's Attack on Titan. That's far from the only death. But I wanted to highlight that because that's something I always appreciate in anime. The ability to make a character death actually fulfilling and satisfying, and making it a moment that makes sense where it's not just like, we're going to kill this character because we're trying to subvert your expectations. We don't want you to get comfortable, so we got to shock you. This is a decision a character makes that is totally logical, and they're a fucking hero for it, and they handle it really well. And I also really like the song that's playing in the background. I love those moments in anime where they have like this fucking track playing. The lyrics are going wild as the characters fighting for their life in a really like big frenzy. It's so cool. It's really great. There's nothing that I disliked about the finale part 1 here. Now, of course, I haven't read the manga. I've actually stopped myself from reading the manga multiple times over the years because I want to experience it in the show first. I do know that the reception to the manga's ending was extremely mixed. I have a good idea on how this wants to wrap itself up, and if I'm right, I won't be disappointed if it goes in that direction, though I could see why others would be. And I just want to put that out there because since we're talking about the finale to Attack on Titan, it would be a disservice not to mention that. I know there were a lot of people that weren't super satisfied. I don't know the ending myself right now. I'm going to keep myself spoiler free as much as possible. But I do think I know how this is going to conclude. And if it does do it the way I think it will, I won't be one of those people that think it sucks. But we'll see. Maybe it's different than I'm anticipating, and maybe I won't like it. But right now, I fucking love where it's going. I love where the finale leaves off. It's a great cliffhanger that makes me super excited for the second part to drop. And there's never a dull moment in this. This is an hour long, the finale part 1. It's an hour long, and it went by so quick. When it was over, I felt like I had just sat down for like 10 minutes. It was just so much going on, and it was so good. I don't know, I just really fucking loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Attack on Titan is really a show that I feel everyone can find something to like in, even if you're not like a shonen fan. I feel like it offers an extremely unique and fun story that's not afraid to get gruesome and not afraid to kill off beloved characters. It's not afraid to do a lot of things most other anime shy away from. And I appreciate that. Of course, it still has its tropiness, it still has some cliches and some silly shit, but overall, it's just a really well-written story with characters that are super, like, fleshed out with a lot of depth. The story's gone in directions I would have never been able to predict or anticipate, especially from season 1. I really thought this was just going to be some standard shonen whose claim to fame was creative and beautifully animated action. Season 1 had a lot of great fights, and it still does. Like, it still has amazing action, don't get me wrong. But like right now, the main thing I really appreciate from Attack on Titan is its characters and its story. In season 1, there was a lot of emotional moments, but the main thing people remember is the ODM gear and how fun that was to watch them fucking zip around and slash the necks off of these giant monster titans. It was fucking awesome, and it is still super cool to see that. That has still not lost its charm. But as the show's developed, so too has the characters and even the action, because now they've introduced a lot of titans that fight each other. I'm not going to get into spoilers for what dropped just now, but I am going to get into spoilers for the previous seasons because fucking obviously. So after introducing like the Attack Titan, Armor Titan, and all of that, we got to see more than just the ODM gear. We got to see Titans fighting other Titans. And that's led to a lot of other really creative fights, such as in the last season with Eren versus the Warhammer Titan. All of these moments are just so beautifully animated too. It's a show where it's clear a ton of blood, sweat, tears, and just pure passion gets poured into it. There's just never been a time where Attack on Titan looked bad. There's plenty of things I can understand people like not liking about certain aspects of it, but on the whole, it's a show whose quality has never really wavered, and it's always maintained this extreme level of polish and beauty to it, at least visually. And I really do feel like it presents one of the most compelling narratives I've seen in a long time from anime. I can't get over it because it does something that I always love, making the main character slowly turn into the bad guy. Someone that you start feeling guilty if you're rooting for them. Code Geass is my favorite anime, and it does something very similar with Lelouch. In the beginning, you're pumping your fist. Yeah, Lelouch, man, there's so much fucking trash out there. You know, let's make it better. You're doing great, Lelouch. Oh, yeah, keep clapping cheeks out there, brother. And eventually, he starts doing some real fuck shit and making some truly evil decisions. And you start to wonder, is this a bad guy? Is this the villain now? And as it continues, you keep asking that question until you get to the point where it's like, yep, this is pretty unforgivable shit. But they do a good job of slowly building that up and even giving you reasons why what they're doing is almost justifiable and makes sense that it might even be for the greater good. In Code Geass is what I'm still talking about. Attack on Titan tackles something very similar with its main character, Eren Yeager. He went from the protagonist, he's the Attack Titan, and like a righteous kid. Like, he's always looking out to try and, you know, make sure his comrades are safe, protecting everyone. Just very cliche anime good guy. My friends are the most important thing in the world. We can do anything with the power of friendship. Friendship punch. That kind of shit. But as the show's continued, he's become much less of the good guy, and now he is the main antagonist. Eren Yeager is the ultimate bad guy. He is a genocidal maniac. He is committing mass murder on a global scale with the Rumbling. He now commands an unstoppable force of these colossal titans that nobody has the equipment or the power necessary to deal with. So he is literally trampling all of humanity from outside, all of humanity outside the walls. So he's not the good guy. You can't root for him. But they've built that up slowly, and it wasn't just like this flip of a switch like Game of Thrones Season 8 where Daenerys just starts burning everyone to death like, I guess I'll be evil now. This was slowly built up and really feels very natural for the character. Like, his reasoning, you can almost rationalize too. His entire race, the Eldians, were treated like devils, isolated to this, you know, complete podunk corner of the world, behind these walls, cut off from the rest of civilization for 100 years. And now he just bears all of this hatred from the world that the world put onto them. He is now the embodiment of that hatred and is projecting it out against the rest of them in order to protect his group, the Eldians, the ones behind the walls. So, like, it's terrible what he's doing, but he does have his own reasons for it. Of course, it's not like a great reason for actual genocide, but it's, of course, a reason, one that's not just like cartoonishly evil, twirling his mustache like, I just want humanity to die. I just really appreciate what they've done with his character in particular. They've done a great job with all the characters, but that is always something I can commend. It's such a big risk to take. Your main character, the protagonist, and making them the bad guy eventually. It's just such a bold move. Like, that shit is a Hail Mary, and if you flop around, you waffle about, you start to fuck it up, then you ruin the entire experience and everyone hates it. But luckily that's not the case here. And every character gets moments to shine, which is beyond impressive. Even characters who in the beginning were very minor characters got blown into these big roles. Like, they took on these huge responsibilities and shined. And characters that seemed like they were going to be there for the long haul died. But they didn't just die in like pathetic, wimpy, weak, not satisfying ways. They go out like fucking heroes. And it's, like I said, it's a show that wasn't afraid to take those risks. My favorite character in the show is Erwin. Erwin died quite some time ago. He hasn't been in this in years now. But his presence is still felt. They still talk about him. He still had an incredible impact, even currently, on where this story has unfolded. And that's something that just very few things can do. Usually when a character dies, their influence is no longer felt, and they just kind of, you know, peter out, just kind of fizzle away. But not in this show. Characters are still referenced, and they are still integral to the development of the characters that are still alive, and they carry on certain things from the deceased ones. It's just beautiful. I really think it's just a masterpiece of anime. I can't talk highly enough about it. But anyway, I think I've sucked the show's dick enough by now, so I'll go ahead and just leave it at that. If you haven't seen Attack on Titan, I do highly recommend it, and I really liked the finale part 1, and am super excited for the second part. That's about it. See ya.